You're watching USA, America's favorite cable network.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Retro Cult Up All Night. No, I didn't change the name of the show, but tonight we're going to talk about something that I'd say a lot of people my age are very familiar with, and that is USA Up All Night. If you're not, then get ready because we're going to kind of deep dive into this thing. Growing up, like, and I know a lot of people probably born before 90 or born after 90 may not have really experienced this as much because that makes you 10 going into 2000. And there were still video stores and stuff then, but they were definitely dying down. And it wasn't as prevalent to go rent movies and things like that. But you didn't always have the ability to, one, go rent movies, and two, TV was a lot different back then than it is now. Not all in positive ways, not all in negative ways. Obviously, now we've got every movie imaginable at the touch of a finger. I mean, anything you can imagine between streaming services and things like that. And I enjoy that. I really do. Like, it's it's fun that the capability of just having anything you want at any time is there. It's something that I really appreciate, like, in regards to I could find movies I couldn't find. But I think it does do something in taking away anticipation and appreciation. And that's a personal thing. Like, that's something you can, if you have the willpower, do yourself and put back in. But like scheduled appointment television, I don't know how big of a deal that is anymore. I mean, I definitely don't feel the need or feel like I'm required to wait for something or to really put an emphasis on, scheduling watching something, because I can miss it and catch it now. And one of the biggest examples of that I can think of, like, for me, because I never was a TV show person in my entire life, like as far as sitcoms or just scheduled TV shows went. Like, there were things I didn't miss. Like, there were phases of my life I didn't miss Monday Night Raw. I didn't miss Nitro. I recorded those. The biggest example I always use is the X-Files. There were a couple episodes of the X-Files I didn't know existed until, well, I knew they existed, I guess, but I hadn't seen them till years later on a DVD set that had all the episodes on it. And that was one of my favorite shows, one of the few shows that I kind of appointment watched. I sit down, this is when it comes on, and probably one of the few shows that I used the TV guide for, because I hear people my age and older all the time talking about the TV guide, and we couldn't wait to get it and look and see what was coming on and this. That wasn't the case for me. For me, I really didn't look. I kind of just gambled, and it's just whatever came on, because I didn't spend a ton of time watching TV growing up. And I don't think a lot of people did, as far as like daily activity went. And for some reason, like, I think when you're really young, cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons and stuff, they're important, and you watch them, and then you kind of just hit this time to where you just kind of watch what you watched when you watched it. And then as you got older, television, especially like late 90s into 2000, like music television and shows like a show from USA called Farm Club become like a cool thing to catch, because it was something that people were talking about, and it was something that that had like social meaning, I guess. And you ended up getting that as an adult. I've never really had it, but like, I hear people all the time, when Lost was out, talking about the latest episode of Lost, and I didn't see that till way after Lost was off the air. Or I still hear people talking about the latest episode of The Walking Dead. So it's not completely dead in that sense. But me as a kid, it was get up, maybe watch a little TV in the morning. I'm thinking summer or a weekend. During the week, not much of anything. When I was younger, it was Cartoon Express in the morning, again on USA. And I did a complete episode about the USA Network, and probably going to do another one and sit down with some other guests and really just go over that one and talk about that one, because USA Network was big for me. But you'd spend your day, especially in the summer, playing or whatever outside or doing whatever, as you got all riding bikes, and then eventually got into bands and stuff like that. But I was always a night owl, and I always liked to be up late at night, and I always was a late person, like a definitely up late person, and still it wasn't for work and having a day shift job, which I'm hoping to go to working for myself within the next year or so. But if it wasn't that, I would still be a night owl. I enjoy it more. Like, I like nighttime. And back then, especially nights I was home alone, I had to have something to do at night. And, from TV Land, all these different channels that come out and all these different TV programs and stuff, late night, there's always a lot of good movies on late night. And the name escapes me now, but I remember a guy from USA, General something or Sergeant something, did a movie hour like deal. And you obviously had Elvira, who, in terms of appearance, just to be completely honest, in terms of appearance and character, was always my favorite of those hosts. You had Spenguli, which really I only found about kind of later. He really come on the radar for me later on in life. You had Joe Bob Briggs. The only issue with a lot of those shows was they were horror based. I'm not a horror guy, never have been, probably never will be. Like, I'm a comedy guy and an action guy, pretty well straight down the line. Like, that's what I do. And I was born in 82. So, born in the 80s, and I was a big movie buff even back then. And I don't consider myself a movie buff. I got a buddy named Mug that is a real movie buff, especially when it comes to horror. And we had a friend named Brad, and he and Mug were really big on the horror end. But then Brad knew a little bit about everything. Like, I mean, everything, and could just drop knowledge on you on whatever genre of movie. And he got into more of these weird, eccentric movies. And again, I like comedies and action movies, and I like really bad comedies, and I like really bad action movies, and I like movies that are so bad that I consider them good. A lot of people are kind of confused by that one. They're like, well, what do you mean it's so bad it's good? I guess, like, the commercial passe thing to say now, the thing that everybody could identify with now that it's popular, is The Room. The Room is a horribly shot movie, but it was shot completely in a serious tone. It's a horrible movie, but it's amazing to watch. And I've always been just fascinated with that. And there's a Samurai Cop. Samurai Cop's one of those movies that, oh, excuse me, I can't clear my throat. Samurai Cop's one of those movies, again, that it is so horrible that it's good. Like, it's enjoyable to watch. And later on, we would get Mystery Science Theater 3000. And then later from that, Riff Tracks. And they really took a different approach to this hosted movie ideal, because they were watching the movies along with it and talking over it. And to me, that is a great model, and I love it. But very early on, I realized that from video stores and things of that nature that there's so many movies out there and so many I hadn't seen. And like there's just movies that your parents won't let you rent or that it's kind of a little embarrassing to watch in front of your parents. And a lot of those movies made it to USA up all night. And again, they did a lot of horror, they did a lot of things, but they did a lot of stuff in general. Now, I can't sit and say I'm an old school from day one USA up all night person because I'm not. Um, it, you know, uh, I found it. My guess would be early 90s, 90, 91. You look at 90, I'm 8 years old, and you go, well, is an 8-year-old really going to be watching? I was with my grandfather most nights. There's a possibility, I would say closer to 92. By 10, I know I was watching it, and I know I was staying up to watch it. Um, so USA Up All Night or Up All Night with Rhonda Shear may have even been what it was called at first, I think. Uh, it aired on Friday and Saturday nights on USA Network from, I think, around about 89 to 98. I actually tried to look that up and seen some uh, varying things, some things kind of that showed differently. Like I seen something that showed the show beginning in June 6, 1986. I'm for that by that point. I'm not seeing it. But the ideal behind the show is you take low budget films booked with using in studio comedy skits, or these guys are on location or on a film studio somewhere with hosts that introduce the movie, talk about the movie, and kind of just add some type of comedic breakup to this. They're hosting you watching this movie. And again, my first memory of ever seeing anything like that was the other show on USA with the general. For some reason, I have this memory of this show, and I'm assuming it's it because I really don't have a lot of memory of that. Now, you look back now and you're like, well, you've got all these cult classics that came on USA Up on that. I don't know how cult classic they were at the time, some of them, especially some newer ones, some of the 80 ones, like they really hadn't gotten to that level yet. So maybe USA Up on that made them cult classics, or maybe they were just a little ahead of the curve on that. But it was definitely a sea of B movies, and I like B movies. There were some sexploitation films in there, and as a young teenage boy, that became a really big attraction to me, to USA Up All Night. There was a lady named Caroline Schlitt, I believe, that originally hosted Friday nights while Gilbert Gottfried done Saturday nights. And the best I can remember, Gilbert always did Saturday nights. I read that the Schilt lady left in 90. I don't remember her at all. So that would make some sense because, again, I'm a little too young for that. Then Rhonda Shear replaced her on Fridays. That is the USA Up All Night lineup I kind of remember the most. Rhonda Shear and Gilbert Gottfried. And I mean, obviously, Rhonda Shear was a beautiful lady. I think she may have been some type of beauty queen pageant winner or something like that. She may have even competed for Miss USA. I don't know if that was a joke that was in it, but going back and rewatching some bumpers and stuff like that, I heard that mentioned. Maybe she was like a Miss Louisiana or something. Either way, she was a really pretty lady, and that helped. And it made Friday nights fun. But Saturday nights, you had Gilbert Gottfried. And I always loved Gilbert Gottfried. He was entertaining. It's a different type of humor than I'd seen in a lot of other places. I've always been big on stand-up comedians and comedy, be honest with you, I didn't know anything about his stand-up work at that time or anything of that nature, but he was a funny guy, and I thought he'd done a good job. I thought both of them did, and I always liked it. Like every once in a while, you'd see them together. In my head, it probably happened a lot more than it really did, because in my head they were together a lot. But I definitely remember some special episodes of them being together, but I don't know how often they did that. But looking back, and people say this to me all the time, especially my wife. It's like, sorry, couldn't get to the mute button. It's like, how can you like those movies? They're so bad. And maybe, and it's possible, that it's a result of USA Up All Night, because you've seen things on USA Up All Night that you didn't see anywhere else. The trauma stuff is a good example of that. Toxic Avenger and things like that. But Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, like, I would have to say with Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, without me actively searching it out and finding it online, I have never seen Attack of the Killer Tomatoes anywhere except USA Up All Night. And I don't know if you should, because I think that's the right environment to see that. And I alluded to the what is it? The TV Guide earlier. One of the few times I can remember checking that TV Guide before the X-Files era, because sometimes shows would get preempted or pushed, and that wasn't bad on Fox, but that was more the reason, that and to know what the episode was called and stuff. And I tried to record with a video cassette a lot of the X-Files episodes. But one of the few times before that I actually used that TV Guide was, remember, and again, this is in a pre-digital world. I can remember, and I remember this, I guess probably partially because of the determination I had to find it, and partially because of the excitement of when I found it. But I have a fairly good memory of this. I seen USA Up All Night for the first time, and the movie I had seen had a pretty profound impact on me, I guess, but not enough that I can remember what that film was. However, I did know I really liked this, and I had seen it just passing through the channels late at night a couple times before, so I knew this comes on USA, and this is a show where they show movies that I think I would like to watch. How do I find this? And so I go to the TV Guide, and I can remember seeing this USA Up All Night, and the name alone has this kind of this feeling, kind of like this connotation of you shouldn't be up, like, this is more adult, this is more risque. And you got the adult ads, the 1-800 numbers and stuff at night, or 1-900 numbers. And but it had this feel of this is what the adults are doing, so you shouldn't be doing this, which obviously meant I want to be doing this. And I wasn't excited for USA Up All Night every week like I was at one point when I was younger for wrestling, or even when I was older for wrestling, or like I was for the X-Files. USA Up All Night was more of that thing of, this is on really late at night, because USA Network had something similar to like a news lead in for a very short while, I think, when I was watching that. And like, it was later at night, everybody else was going to be in bed. Like, it's not something I had to plan for. It's just like, I'm going to be up anyway. I'm either going to be up, playing a video game, or watching a movie that I already own, or I'm going to be up watching USA Up All Night. Like, it was part of routine. It wasn't even part of like planning out and had to get excited and stuff. Like, this was routine. It's Saturday night, you watch USA Up All Night. And again, USA had a lot of things in its schedule that I got that way with. I got that way with Sunday Night Heat. I got that way with Monday Night Raw because they were both on there. I got that way with Duckman for a long time. I was that way when I was little with Cartoon Express. I thought that was the best cartoon, lineup coming or going. And so USA Up All Night kind of finds its place for me. And, I remember the host really well. I remember the feeling and the excitement and kind of like it felt like a cool, hip thing to be done because, you'd get, whatever, because I can't remember all the titles, just insert because I guarantee something with a name similar to this, cheerleader, beach, volleyball, car wash, whatever was there, and for whatever reason, I remember like the Ski Patrol movies and things of that nature being on there. And those felt cool and they felt hip. And I looked over a couple lists back when I did the USA Network podcast, which has been a long time ago. And it was hard to get lists that didn't contradict and stuff like that. And the list doesn't do me a lot of good if I can't remember it. And I don't remember if any of the lists actually had this, but I remember for whatever reason, I have this memory of whether it's correct or not, seeing believe Revenge of the Nerds, like 2 or 3, the first time on USA Up All Night. And I have this memory, a very good memory of seeing Police Academy, one of the police academies on USA Up All Night. But I couldn't give you a number to either one of those to be exact. But I remember that being the first place I'd seen either of those 2 franchises. And they're 2 franchises I ended up really liking. Again, I like bad movies because a lot of people would consider both of those bad movies, I guess. And I liked them. But, like I do remember Money Can't Buy Me Love for whatever reason. I know I seen it on USA Network. So there's a good possibility that a lot of these movies I saw got accredited to USA Up All Night when they were simply just on USA Network. And that's possible. That's highly possible. Granted, I don't know for sure that that's the case, but I feel like with some confidence I can say I seen some of those movies on there. And I get in that time frame of saying I don't remember that first host. And I've tried to think about that all day. Like, when did I really start watching USA Up All Night? And I don't know for sure. But it is possible I've seen it some in that earlier time, but I don't know. But you take the comedies like Police Academy and Revenge of the Nerds, those are movies you could see other places. And those are movies I could rent. Like, I remember renting Police Academy movies. And, they have this reputation of only showing really bad B movies, which I don't have a problem with. They also, I've talked to some people that felt like they had, I even had somebody message on the or email earlier, was like, yeah, I watched USA Up All Night, because that was a great place for horror. Like, I do remember some horror. Like, I remember Chucky being on there. I remember something like the Friday the 13th being on there right around Friday the 13th. And I think that's right, because it seems like I remember even it being Rhonda Shear doing that. I definitely remember the Nightmare on Elm Streets. And I know that they had that reputation for that, but, going through those lists and looking, Caddyshack was on USA Up All Night, and Fletch Lives was on USA Up All Night. And people may actually consider those bad movies. I don't know. I know Caddyshack is considered a classic, called a classic. I sit here and I look across the room to my Caddyshack movie poster and my metal Caddyshack Gopher sign, Freeze Gopher. I'm a huge Caddyshack fan. But I know where I first saw Caddyshack. I first saw Caddyshack by renting Caddyshack and not getting it at all at first. Fletch, I consider to be a lot better movie, Fletch and Fletch Lives. I did first see Fletch on cable TV. I don't know where, but Fletch Lives, I definitely rented first, and got it right off. To me, that's one of the better movies I've ever seen. But to me, like, I don't consider those bad movies that become cult classics or anything. And maybe other people do. Maybe that's the category they're in. But I don't look at them that way. And I'm getting ready to do a Chevy Chase episode that's just full on Chevy Chase, and I'm beyond excited about that. But for this reputation of only having bad movies, they really had a lot of good movies. Actually, I'm going to pull up a list here, and we're just going to kind of touch on some stuff. Like, there's a movie 976 Evil that was on USA Up All Night. I've heard about that movie a lot. I think there's even a Deftones song named after that. I've never seen that movie. I assume it's a horror movie. Then you get into like stuff like, and I love this, and I like just the naming of this: Assault of the Killer Bimbos, Assault of the Party Nerds, Assault of the Party Nerds 2, The Heavy Petting Detective, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. I'm never not going to watch Attack of the Killer Tomatoes if it's on. It's just, it's never on because TV's not really on anymore. I couldn't just pull up a digital copy of that or look on a streaming service for those movies back then. If I wanted to see them, I had to catch them. And, first thing I would do is, let's see what I've got behind me here. I don't know that I necessarily do that with any of these movies, but the first thing I would do once I realized how good the movies were to me that were coming on USA Up All Night, I'd get me a tape, and I would tape. I started out, and I regret this now. One, I regret that I threw these tapes away. Two, I regret the way I originally started out doing this. I started out stopping the recording every time it went to commercial so that I just got the movie, and eventually, even back then, I realized Rhonda Shearer and Gilbert Godfrey are some of the best part of the movie. So I want the whole deal. Plus, I was really lazy and it won't hit stop record like that. And you miss stuff because your timing's not always perfect. Or I'd get really bad movies that belong to somebody else in the house and put tape over this little hole. And if you're listening to this on iTunes, there is a YouTube version of this podcast on Retro Cult Podcast to where you get video. But I'd put a piece of tape over this little hole on really bad movies. But Crocodile Dundee is not a movie I would have taped over, I don't believe. But and I would record those. And eventually I threw all those away. And that's tragic. I hate that. But I'd love to have those back at some point in time. But I could preserve it and rewatch it that way, but I had to catch it that first time. I couldn't just stream it. And before seeing Attack of the Killer Tomatoes on USA Up All Night, I don't know if I even knew that existed. I had no idea because there's still stuff like Back to the Beach, Back to the Girls' Dormitory. I may have even watched those maybe on mute just for the visual. I don't know. I'm sorry, Bad Girls Dormitory, but I don't remember them. Then you like Basket Case. Basket Case is obviously a big time, I guess, cult horror film. I did see large chunks of that in my life. It probably on USA Up All Night, but it wasn't something that I was into. Now these two movies, and I'm assuming they replayed episodes of USA Up All Night, that it wasn't every week of the year, every year. That's my assumption. Because I've never looked at dates on any of these movies. And there's movies like, I believe The Burbs was on there, but it was on there early in the run. I definitely seen The Burbs from USA Up All Night. And so I'm assuming they replayed sometimes or something like that, or maybe they played that much later on. I'm not sure, but Bikini Car Wash Company 2, Bikini Summer, and Bikini Summer 2. A lot of these films, and you got to understand me when I tell you this. A lot of these films are written in a way that, well, the script doesn't matter. What is in being emphasized here is bikini. I mean, let's be honest. That's, you don't flip through and go, Bikini Car Wash Company. That's going to be Oscar worthy acting with an amazing plot twist and drama. And no, it's not. It's going to be chicks in bikinis. And look, 12, 13, 14-year-old kid, yeah, actually 10-year-old kid, enough to know, hey, if I got this on tape, this will be valuable to somebody. You just don't realize it'll be valuable to you down the road. But I digress. I can't tell you which of those movies exactly I saw because I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to the storyline, but I most definitely had those recorded. And, and then like I see Breakfast with Tiffany. I don't know what that was, but it's not Breakfast at Tiffany. So, I'm curious. Now, Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death. I definitely remember this movie. Now, as to if it was on USA Up All Night or not, I don't know. And, I sit and I say this about all these movies. I'm like, okay, so how important was the aspect of USA Up All Night? I think it was very important because I seen that movie. It's not my type of movie, and I'm just not that into it. So, no, I don't know exactly where I saw it. And it's not a movie that I fell in love with, like, Fletch. That I've watched Fletch twice in the last 4 months. I've watched Fletch Lives twice in probably the last 2 months. So it's hard to recall exactly where the first place, and I do recall, actually, I rented those, but it's hard to recall every time you've seen them and where you've seen them at. So, yeah, I don't remember if I saw Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle on USA Up All Night, but I remember almost everything about the host interactions and all that on USA Up All Night. But Class of Nukem High, I'm looking at this list. Class of Nukem High, I most definitely saw on USA Up All Night. And most definitely was not prepared, maybe, for what I was seeing. Because that was something new to me, that style of filmmaking and that style of movie. You get Class of Nukem High, Surf Nazis Must Die, stuff like that. Like, I'd never seen anything like that. And this kind of opened me up to it. And I guess Class of Nukem High is not, wouldn't consider it hardcore horror, but it's definitely that kind of gross 80s action horror. And that I could kind of sink my teeth into some, as opposed to just like straight up horror and, Pinhead and stuff like that. I didn't get into it. I remember Critters being on there, and Critters is one of those that, I kind of got into that was somewhat horror based. Evil Dead. I'm going to tell you, I don't remember seeing Evil Dead on there, but it would have been something I would have watched, most definitely. Here's the Friday the 13th, 1, 2, and 3. At least they only played the Good Friday the 13th. So you've got that going for you. Then there's Friday Night 2. I don't know. Now, I see something here listed, and I'm curious to what it is. It's Frogtown 2, because I can tell you a movie that I definitely saw for the first time on USA Up All Night, and that was Hell Comes to Frogtown, Roddy Piper. I'm a huge fan of They Live, and I'm a huge fan of Hell Comes to Frogtown. And if you've never seen Hell Comes to Frogtown, if you're from Knott County, which is where I live in Kentucky, Hell's not came to Frogtown yet. That's a place not far down the road from where I live. But this is a different Frogtown. But Roddy Piper, is best I can recall, is the only fertile man left alive. And well, he's got to repopulate. Hell Comes to Frogtown is a Uh, I say this, but I say it with hesitation. Like, I think people would agree. It's a horrible movie. Uh, I love everything about it. I like the fact that the story's just out there. I like that Roddy's Roddy, and I like the fact that it's just a movie for the sake of being a movie. It's like, we don't have a great story. We don't have great equipment. We don't have the best actors and actresses, but Roddy Piper's pretty good. And these girls could show some skin, and he could fight some, and we could put some, half mutated mutants in there. Yeah, we could do this. We can make it's almost that canon films um ideology of filmmaking, which is another episode you look forward to pretty soon. I'm trying to get my buddy Mug on here and do a canon films episode, because I'm sorry, they were at their prime, probably mid to late 80s. But Hell Comes to Frogtown is something, I've never seen it since then, as far as like on TV. And I don't know if I ever would have. And I know this, if I'd never seen it on USA Up All Night, somebody would have had to clue me in on that movie. And there's not a lot of people who I know personally in the area I'm from that are into that type of movie. So I may have never found Hell Comes to Frogtown. And really, I can tell you right now, I was probably a late bloomer on They Live, because I most definitely seen Hell Comes to Frogtown before I seen They Live. And really, They Live is kind of like Fight Club. When I first saw Fight Club, I was like, when I first saw the advertisement for it, I was like, yeah, I don't think I want that. And then I watched it the first time, and I was like, I don't really know how I feel about that. But then by the time I watched it the second time, it became one of my favorite movies, and something I can watch almost any time. It's kind of that way with They Live. It was a while before I seen it. And then when I did see it, I was like, I got to see that again and again and again. And somewhere in all of this collection is my They Live box set. And I love They Live. And I really feel like, obviously I gave it a chance for Roddy Piper. And obviously by the time I heard about They Live, it had kind of already had a cult following. But I was a lot more comfortable going into the possibility of watching that, due to the fact that on USA Up All Night, I found Hell Comes to Frogtown. And it's a movie I mention a lot. I mentioned that USA episode because that's most definitely where I seen it. Go back down this list a little bit. I like Hollywood Hot Tubs, Hollywood Zap, Hollywood High, and Hollywood High 2, Hollywood Boulevard 2. They didn't show the first one. I'm going to tell you why. Hollywood Boulevard was not up to the level of film that Hollywood Boulevard 2 was. And I understand that. Hot Moves, Hot Resort, Hot Splash, Hot Times at Montclair High. I wonder, because I don't remember ever seeing that film, if there's any relation to or any desire to maybe make a play on people who may have enjoyed Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Hot Under the Collar, Hunk, Kentucky Fried Movie, a movie I didn't see till much later. Definitely didn't see it on USA Up All Night, but Jocks. Jocks is a movie that I definitely seen back in that time period, and definitely had on tape. And you got to look like one of the biggest things. And it's like, if you, I imagine something like, I wonder, because like my son's 11, and maybe I'll show you guys, move the camera, the fixed camera before we get done here, and like show you, like, we have, and we don't have all of it out. Like, we don't have this big, massive, expensive collection of stuff, but like we have a lot of cool stuff that means stuff to me personally. But we also have a lot of stuff, like we have a whole Nintendo section and Hanna-Barbera collection that's solely him. Like all of these retro games, the NES, the Super NES, like I could have 2 or 3 games from each system that really mean something to me. And that's about it, because I don't game a ton. And he really doesn't game a ton either, but he loves retro games. He loves retro stuff. So I always wonder if people listen to this that are younger because they're into retro stuff. And I don't know if they do or not, but to understand, to be, because he's 11 and like he still doesn't fully grasp it. And I don't like, I didn't fully grasp at 10 or 11 what life was like in the 50s for my grandparents. I had no clue. But the process of getting movies, like going to a video store and renting movies, like, okay, my daughter who is will be 24 this year, like she understands that, because when me and my wife first got together, she was really little. Like we still went to a local video store. Even after she got a little bit older, there was still a video store hanging on pretty tough around here that we went to. And like she understands the idea of it. And then she understands like she kind of saw the progression from us doing that to be honest with you, us having the money to pay a little bit more and it being a little bit more convenient to do a direct TV rental or something like that. But my son has no frame of reference for that at all. And I wonder about people that listen to this that may be younger, because when I would record something like Bikini Car Wash or Jocks or something like that and get it on a VHS tape, that was something that, look, I'm not to be crude, but like Pornhub is everywhere now. Like 14-year-old kids are probably all over that, I'm assuming, because they all have phones and it's everywhere. And like movies that you're, quote, not supposed to see, rated R movies, whatever, like how easy is it for kids to access that? Like they can get their hands on, like, a Fire Stick or the internet, just their laptop, they can find it. Like to watch a really hardcore action movie with a lot of blood and guts, or a horror movie, especially if you're a horror movie fan. Like I never was, but I can imagine that played really big into that for them. And I just took out the whole microphone. But even like more people in my generation may have called Skinamax style movies that you could get off of Cinemax and HBO. The tier down below that was USA Up All Night movies that really didn't show anything, but had this, it insinuated sexy stuff. And so those became valuable. They, go to your buddy and say, hey, have you seen this? Let me check this out. And also like crude jokes and crude humor and things like that. He's like, you're not supposed to be able to get your hands on that, and you can get your hands on it. And it's coming on cable TV. You just got to stay up a little late and you just got to record it. So I remember having these movies recorded because like it was a big deal to have them. You know what I mean? It had some gravitas with your friends if you had that, like, yeah, I would have Killer Tomato Strike Back. Not a lot of people were interested in that I was friends with. They really, it didn't get them, and I would have Meatballs. Even Meatballs 2, I pretend 3 and 4 don't exist, but even Meatballs 2, and I would have it and I would be like, that means something. I'm gonna hang on that. Meatballs is still one of my favorite movies. I love Bill Murray. Him and Chevy Chase are two of my favorite comedic actors of all time. And I love their movies. And so that meant something to me, then you turn around and you've got Bikini Car Wash. That means something to my friends. Like it means something to me, but it means something to my friends too. Whereas maybe, Hell Comes to Frogtown. I don't know. Hell Comes to Frogtown could kind of, so yeah, it could skate that somewhat. Go back to the list here and see what I got. Porky's. I'm gonna tell you, I remember the first time I ever seen Porky's, and I remember the last time I seen Porky's. I can tell you that the last time I seen Porky's was December of 2021. And I'll say this with no apologies, it is still as enjoyable to me as it was when I was younger, but it is funnier to me now because there's stuff that maybe I picked up on that I didn't. And I say that unapologetically. It's a great movie. And it's one of those, everybody, maybe it is a cult classic, but that was something that even like cable channels tried to show during prime time sometimes, and just cut the crap out of. And look, you can cut the crap out of it and it's still there. It's still um a movie, but it's not the same movie. And obviously I don't recommend that for kids, and I don't know how old I was when I saw that. I probably definitely was way too young, but I've not killed anybody yet, so apparently it doesn't lead to any type of psychotic things. That I know of. Reform school girls, on the other hand, could lead to no. It just was good trade material. But I look at my love for this show, and like I would even give things a try, like Sleepaway Camp, if it would come on USA Up All Night, that I wouldn't give an opportunity to any other time, because again, I'm not a horror guy, but like the Toxic Avenger series, and all that trauma stuff that come on there, that's really stuff that just on any given day of the week. I mean, the cartoon and all that come later, I don't know how kiddie they tried to make it because I never seen it. But to be just watching TV and looking for that, I think I had to somewhat be initiated into that USA Up All Night kind of mindset and culture to get into those, because that's not my style of movie. The Vice Academy stuff was definitely my style of movie. It was. And it's just hodgepodge because they didn't stick to some formula. Like, I don't know what Joe Bridges' formula is. I know he was really entertaining, like even to the point that sometimes I watched his show just like as he went in between commercials and stuff, like the physical aspect of him being on there and him doing the jokes. So like, I liked the character. I watched that. And like, I did watch a couple movies on there and tried to get into them, but it wasn't really my thing. And I watched the Elvira movies. I remember occasionally finding that, okay, this channel, maybe it was WGN or something like that, is running Elvira right now. But, I wasn't going to do that weekly. USA Up All Night just always felt, let me say the most old man dad thing I'm going to say, and it felt hip, kids. It felt like you were in the know. You were part of the in crowd. I don't know, like, because looking back, I don't remember friends that watched USA Up All Night that like we're super close friends. Like my buddy Lance, I remember my buddy Lance saying, "Yeah, I watch USA Up All Night." I can remember watching USA Up All Night when he was around. So I don't know if he just seen it through me or what, but he was a good kid. So I'm assuming before getting to know me, he probably didn't watch it. We started hanging out around 7th grade, and by 7th grade, I was most definitely watching USA Up All Night at every opportunity. My buddy Eric, who I was closest with, I don't remember him ever saying, "Yeah, I watched USA Up All Night," or this. Like, I don't remember it being talked about. So I wasn't doing it to be like, "Hey, look how cool I am. I'm watching USA Up All Night." Like, I think I'm just was a weird kid that found it and went, "Oh, I want to watch this." And I really enjoyed it. Like, and it's amazing because, let's say I started watching in 92, at 10 years old, okay. I'll be 40 this year. I still think about it. And it's been off the air since 98. I graduated high school in 2000. So that's been 24 years ago. And I'm still thinking about it. So it had like, it was one of those enjoyable things. And I wonder, like, how much did it impact other people? Did other people like enjoy it as much? Did you think Gilbert Gottfried was as funny as I thought he was? And did you think that Rhonda Shear was as hot as I thought Rhonda Shear? Like, I don't know. It's those juvenile statements to make because I was a juvenile person watching that show, and I don't know if that could ever exist again in that way. Like, here's this TV host, and I'm sitting down and I'm going to say, okay, here's this movie. I'm really just going to touch on it a little bit, like the little bit of Joe Bob I remember watching, like he gave some cool information and stuff on the movies too. Like he was comedic, but he also sometimes, because like I remember USA Up All Night going, throwing a fact in, here and there as well. But like Joe Bob just kind of attacked that from a different way. And really, most of my interest in him came after, like, well, not too far long back. Like the buddy of ours, mine and Muggs, passed away, Brad. He would make these compilations of Joe Bob Briggs, like at the movie that he was actually playing, like 4 episodes, though, the Joe Bob part and then the movie and the commercial. And he was telling us about that. And I never seen one, but I thought it was really cool. And that's what made me think, man, I'd like to have that for USA Up All Night. And I would buy that tomorrow. They come out tomorrow and say, yeah, here is every movie that ever played on USA Up All Night with all the bumpers, all of the Gilbert Godfrey parts and the Rhonda Shear parts and blah, blah, blah. Take my money. I'll go buy it tomorrow. But we're almost done. And I know it's been a long time since I've done an episode. And like, I don't know how many people are going to listen to this when I upload it. And I don't know how long it's going to take to build back an audience. I have no clue. And don't think that it was me not wanting to do a podcast or me not enjoying doing a podcast. It was a combination of things, and I made the statement on Facebook, life happens, and it does. And some things happened that did make it harder for me to do the show. Also, I got lazy, and like you have to be honest about this. Like if you just say it and make excuses and go, okay, stuff happens, but it was really bad. I easily could have made episodes. I could have. I made excuses and I let myself fall into a lazy state of mind, and it wasn't a desire to not do it at all. And this was my newest podcast. I've got Talk Junkie, which has been around for years now, but then this was new, and it almost felt like I've not built this up yet, so I can take time off from that. And that was another way to make an excuse to be lazy. Yeah, what I had to deal with, and it's nothing like major, like my life was in danger, or we had any great family illness. It was inconveniences, and I don't believe in excuse making. So the easiest way to do that is to be honest about it. It was just inconveniences that I didn't want to work hard enough to work around, and was being lazy when I should have been. If I really want to do this, I've got to put work into it, because I watch guys like Goose from Here to Chew Bubblegum, and I watch guys and gals like the people at the Spooky Family, and I look, Goose's job's a lot more hectic than mine, and Goose has a lot more irons in the fire. He's doing a lot more things than I'm doing, and I don't hear excuses. I just see results. And one of the members of the Spooky Family has a job schedule that is a nightmare as far as being conducive to doing a podcast. And they've got 3 people to line up, and Goose has 2 to 3 people to line up. It's just me on both shows 90% of the time. And those people, they might miss an episode here or there. They might do, but they always make up for it, and they always put out a really good product, and they always work hard at what they do. And you look at Seth's Daily Podcast. This dude's putting out a podcast a day. I wasn't working hard enough, and I could sit and make excuses all day, but it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't impact your all's day that I'm not here, not doing this. It's just a matter of, if I expect you to listen and I expect you to invest time in this, whether it's good or not, like even if this is the best podcast you've ever heard, and I'm sure it most definitely isn't, because like tonight was rushed and I was nervous and it was the first one back. But even if it was, like I have to put something into it and give you something for your time. Otherwise, why would you why would you even attempt to do it? So I appreciate you guys hanging in there, and I appreciate you guys. You know, if you're back listening and you listened before, I appreciate that. And if you're new, I welcome you with open arms. I really do. And one of the biggest issues with this podcast too was I wasn't satisfied because I didn't feel this was something I could do alone like I do with Talk Junkie. And it is. It's just going to take more work. And the episodes have to be better than they were tonight. And the episodes have to get more work than they do when I have guests, and when I'm fortunate enough to have one or any of the Spooky family on here, like I did with two of the episodes from the first run, like it felt easy. And, even when I made them go way too long on a Halloween podcast that we should have stopped at the old ones, and they still hung in and they didn't complain. And the little bit of mail I've got from this show was mostly about how much people enjoyed having them on. So I've got good friends and I've got a good community around me. So go check out those shows. Go check out Spooky Family. You're not going to regret it, especially if you're into paranormal and stuff like that. Spooky Family Podcast is an excellent, excellent podcast. I can't rave about it enough. And I really, really enjoy those human beings as people. Check out Paranormal Trucker with PT Bart, a great guy that I met through these people podcast, and just a good dude. And it's only on YouTube right now. I'm pushing for him and Seth both to stick to iTunes and things of that nature, because Spotify, because it's easier on the road. Go check them out. Check out Seth's Daily Podcast. Check out Goose and Here to Chew Bubblegum. Of all those shows, it is the one that, he's had a head start. I've been doing this longer than Goose, and I feel like Goose is the guy I call and ask more questions to than anybody. He's got a head start on us all in terms of quality and like production and things of that nature, because he had a background in something similar to that before. But check them out. Check out, whoever it is you enjoy podcasting, no matter how big a star they are, how much of a nobody like me they are, support them, email them. And it's retrocultpodcast@gmail.com. It could have been longer, but I would have never remembered it. And if I had it to do over again, it'd have been a shorter email, and I may change that at some point. Facebook, Retro Cult Podcast. YouTube is either Retro Cult or Retro Cult Podcast. I don't know. And TikTok is Retro Cult Pod, I believe. I'll write all that down next time like a professional, like I should do. But thanks for being here. And you can wait, and hopefully you listen to this about 11 o'clock at night. And it was just like sitting through an episode of USA up all night for you. But thanks. Have a great day. And like I said, coming up soon, we're going to have Chevy Chase episode. We're going to have Canon Films episode. We are going to have two guests for WrestleMania 2 and 3 episode. That honestly, we were watching this and talking about this. We've had a podcast worth of discussion between myself, Goose, and Mug over the last couple of months about this. And it's just a matter of time and an issue and life, because life happens. Thank you all. Have a great night. Don't, that's the wrong podcast. I don't sign off with that. Thank you guys. Have a good night.